Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here today with, I think, a very famous person, Mike Paul. Mike Paul, let him in. Mike Paul of the Reputation Doctor. How are you doing
Okay.
today?
I'm well, Debbie. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm great. So excited. I haven't really done any digging on you because I was so excited to just go from ask my questions right in live and in person. And Mike and I met with a girlfriend of mine. It was a Sunday afternoon and football was on. I was not watching it, but everyone else was. And Mike had just come in for a case, I believe, and he didn't tell us what it was, but we met him at the restaurant watching football, and we just started following each other on social media. And I wanted to ask you a year ago to be on the show, but I thought, well, maybe everything he does is super confidential and he can't share anything. And then we just, kept connecting on social media, and he said yes, he would. So I was so thrilled that you said yes to be on my show. So I look forward to properly introducing you and then just asking questions. So without further
Thank
ado, Mike Paul is the CEO and chairman of the Reputation Doctor and its foundation. Known worldwide by the registered brand name The Reputation Doctor, Mike is an award-winning global public relations and communication strategist with more than 30 years of experience. He is recognized as one of the top expert crisis management, reputation management experts in crisis management, reputation management, risk management, corporate affairs litigation, communications, and governance. For over 3 decades, Mike has advised global corporations, governments, NGOs, universities, celebrities, athletes, nonprofits, and political leaders, guiding them through their most high stakes crises. His expertise spans industries from automotive recalls and financial communications to governance challenges, activist investor battles, energy and healthcare crisis, and as well as reputational challenges faced by athletes, entertainers, and institutions worldwide. Global leaders, CEOs, and corporate boards keep him on speed dial for trusted guidance in both good times and bad. In addition to his advisory work, Mike is executive producer and anchor of Reputations in Crisis, a digital news show featured on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, spotlighting crises ripped from the headlines. He has been hailed as one of the top counselors to have on speed dial by PR Week, the Master of Disaster by Business Week, and Mr. Fix-It by Sports Illustrated. He was also named one of the top 100 thought leaders in trustworthy business behavior by Trust Across America for 2 consecutive years. Mike and his family remain active in philanthropic and charitable events in New York and around the world. Wow. Well, welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Enough time in life to do all of the things that you've done in just this bio, and I'm sure there's more.
Well, I've been blessed to work in a lot of different areas. One of the top decisions I made, backed by my mentor back in the day, Harold Burson, God rest his soul, then the number one PR firm in the world, and the man was considered the most influential public relations leader of the century. Um, he said, you're in this management training program after grad school at Columbia, and I hand plucked you. Uh, but on the crisis space, you seem to have a special skill. My advice to you would be to go deeper, but also your brand should be crisis, meaning you should work in corporate, government, nonprofit, sports and entertainment, not just in the United States, but around the world. And that's what I've been doing. So I've been blessed to
Wow,
do so.
that's incredible. So he handpicked you. Well, let's go back from the beginning. What was Mike like when he was younger? And did you think that when you were growing up, this was something you wanted to go into? What pointed you this way? So where did you grow up, and what led you to where you are today?
So I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I was raised, though, in Huntington, Long Island. Um, and I did not have any curiosity as a young boy about public relations. I thought I was either going to go to law school or work in politics in general. Um, but public relations was not on my mind at all. In fact, public relations didn't get on my mind until I started working in politics and learned more about people moving back and forth between the governmental sector as well as the private sector. One of the places they were landing was lobbying shops as well as public relations firms. The big firms had all the above, plus many other disciplines, similar to very large law firms that have uh, sometimes more than 100 disciplines. There are many disciplines within the public relations space, uh, but a blessing for me, crisis is at the top of the key. We're called the brain surgeons of the industry. We help fix things. We need more value. We bill out at not the hundreds of dollars, but at the thousands of dollars, similar to the top defense attorneys in the world. The economy decides whether that is a relevant amount of money to be making. So obviously, there's added value in doing so if that is true. And I've been blessed to getting close to being my 35th year in the profession now.
So did you start out as an attorney?
Oh no, I didn't go to law school. I got my master's in international and public affairs from Columbia University from the School of International and Public Affairs, one of the top schools in the world for that discipline. I went to school with a lot of ambassadors' kids from all over the world. Many of them are leading their countries now, so it's fun to get these invites from many countries around the world. My family to soon get back on the road and start visiting them. And it's a mix of three sectors, business sector, government sector, as well as the nonprofit sector. When you're dealing with institutions, when it comes to public people, it's elected officials, it's CEOs, it's boards, it's professional athletes, it's many celebrities in the entertainment space. Um, and these brands that they have, are not just logos on a wall or a building. It's the human connection, the ability to be a good person. And when you're not a good person, or you break the law, or you do something fraudulent, you need help in the court of law, and they call attorneys for that. And then they need help in the court of public opinion, and that's one of the areas where I've been blessed to shine.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, what an interesting life. You've met so many interesting people. So you've been called the Master of Disaster and Mr. Fix It. Can you tell us how you earned those titles?
So the Master of Disaster title came from a big Business Week article years ago where, similar to now, the world was on fire with many different crises of many kinds, especially in the business world. Um, and they interviewed me for that segment and for that story, I should say, and gave me that moniker. I was not alone with that moniker, but they were interviewing the masters of disasters from various sectors, and I happened to make the list. Mr. Fixit was from Sports Illustrated with a very kind feature story that dealt with what I do with athletes over the years in every professional sport, including boxing, and dealing with every professional athlete in each league, plus Olympic athletes. Um, and whether it was steroids, whether it was sadly being involved with violence or having guns or drugs or other life struggles. I've worked with a lot of athletes who sadly did not have the preparation needed before they got the money or the fame, um, but had the ability to change, including changing their life and changing their behavior around other people through some of the programs we put together for 'em.
Okay, that's my question. So, first, can you share any story without naming people? Because you mentioned it was drugs, or it could have been any number of things that they did. And I understand about the athlete; they're not prepared, and then they have this money, and then everyone wants a piece of them, and they don't know
Right.
how to handle. And then they're overspending, and then they're broke again. So, let's if you can speak about an athlete, and no names, you don't have to mention names, but how you help them turn their life around. And if they did have a gun or if they were doing drugs and it was true, how are you spinning it to, because
Don't
they
like
did
that
it.
word. I'm
What?
so glad you brought that word up. That word's a big no-no in my firm. Spin to me is a four-letter word for a reason. To me, a spin is a lie or an exaggeration. We don't do that in my firm. In fact, we do the exact opposite of that. We lead on truth. And the reason why that's so important for me to say, it's the reason why we've been successful. There's a ton of firms that will do whatever the client wants for money. There's a ton of firms who will seek a short-term solution, which is a lie. And then when you find out the lie, you have a long-term, bigger problem. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how I was trained, and that's not what we do. In fact, if you do that in working for me, you get fired.
Well, this is good to know. Share how you do it. How do you execute? So someone has done something clearly wrong. How do you handle that?
Very first thing I do, which is the concrete foundation of everything we do, is research. Deeper, better than most firms that are out there. I mean, that's really the definition of success. And it's not something that could be replicated, so I can repeat it. We use tools that are confidential. We use experts that are confidential. I've had, for example, former FBI and CIA operatives as consultants to my firm. We use the best tools of research available. Um, we will use intelligence gathering, not just due diligence, but competitive analysis, so deep that the clients even go, "Whoa, I had no idea you're going to find out that amount of information about me," including within their family, including how they were brought up, including both their positives and negatives of all kinds. That's part of the job. Before we even get started, I mean, the minute I sign a contract, I tell the team, including myself, I got to get a packet. I want to know everything. Start digging. And not only relying on what the client's going to tell me, right? Finding things that the client doesn't want to tell me, because that's human nature. You want to hide, right? But I can't best
Yeah.
help my client, whether it's a corporation or a public person, without knowing everything. So there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of research, and then we have the tools to go out there and put our dukes up and fight for our clients based on truth, right? So if I know where your weakness is, you want me to know that so I can try and help you. You don't tell me what the weakness is and I don't know. It's like Art of War or being in a football game, but you have no plays, you have no foundation, you have no idea what athlete has a particular skill, and you just throw them out there on the field. That doesn't make any sense. There are firms that do that, by the way. We like when they do that, especially when they're opposing us, right? There are organizations that have, five law firms and four PR firms going up against us, and we have an excellent individual attorney and myself and my freelance team, and we kick their butt all the time because it's not about how many people you have. It's about who's smarter, who has a better analysis, who has a better strategy, who has a better goal. Um, I was talking to someone the other day about, for example, women leaders. They're superior to men. There are a lot of men that don't like to hear that. The data is clear about that, for example. Female CEOs are better. But I say just as strongly, there are many people of color who are not just seeking to be a part of the game or a part of an industry. They have factually based superior abilities than some others. So I use the word superior all the time. It makes people nervous. What do you mean? I said, he's better than you. What do you mean? Let me show you the data, right? God forbid your brain thinks that somebody of color or a woman is better or stronger than you. Well, guess what? I like that you think that. We're going to kick your butt when you think that, right? You're not doing proper research if you don't know that. So
Absolutely.
the truth is the most powerful tool. It's the golden rule. We know that. When we don't lean on it, we lose. It's that simple. If we could teach children before they go to kindergarten the basics, but we as adults stink at them, it's the reason why there is an industry called crisis management, crisis PR, period. We struggle. I usually work with very, very powerful white men. Think about what they have to do. They have to trust me with their life, their brand, their families. And I'm a person of color. So it's a higher bar for me to just get in. But once
Right.
I get in and I prove myself along with my team, and they've called another CEO, or they've talked to another athlete or a politico, or they've talked to a nonprofit organization, and they go, well, who helped you solve that? And they go, oh, this guy. That guy? Who's that guy? How come I haven't really heard of him? Or I've seen him on TV, but I didn't know he does that. Well, you're not supposed to know. If I wanted everyone to know, they would know. 35 years, you're not supposed to know. And the reason why is one of the most powerful tools that you can utilize in this profession is being stealth. I've been in meetings with the opposition, but they don't even know I was there. Even after seeing me, after we win, right? And the clients lean on me and go, you were in their meeting and they have no idea that you were there. You know, Nothing illegal, right? Publicly able to walk in, not wearing a disguise or anything. Because the ego sometimes says, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, well, guess what? We're going to make sure we're there. We're going to learn more about you and we're going to win. We're going to use every legal tool that we're possibly able to use. And we want to know cutting edge tools when no one else is using them yet. I just got asked today by somebody, hey, Mike, I saw your interview yesterday. So is AI going to really have the impact that they're saying it's going to have? And I felt like saying, if you don't know the answer to that, then you're already behind the eight ball. It's already changing the world. What are you talking about? Read a few articles, read the data, right? AI is changing the world. It is displacing people from jobs. It is a tool that people use on a daily basis. And I'm not just talking about one, I'm talking about the power of AI with a customized approach to a particular industry or a particular type of business, or different in sports, or different in government use. But if you're not studying it and doing your homework and learning about these things, then you're going to ask questions like that. My simple answer was yes, it's changing the world.
So how do you do? I think I know the answer to this, but how do you feel about AI in your industry?
So you have to understand that any tool is not perfect, number one. Number two, there's still a bias within AI, the same way that there's a bias in the world, right? What do I mean by a bias? When you create something, and only the people around the table are part of the assumptions that go into its creation, you're going to have holes. I still, for example, have meetings with corporations who only sell women's products, and there's 13 men sitting around a boardroom table. And I go, you guys don't like making money? How could that possibly be the best solution? Well, Mike, this is the way it's always been. I said, okay, is your job to keep it the way it's always been? Or is the definition of being a board member to have the fiduciary responsibility to constantly be thinking from a shareholder's perspective for not only doing the right thing, but for growth, to reduce risk? One risk might be you got all your eggs in one basket, including with one gender sitting around a table, instead of the gender of which buys your product. That's just insanity to me. Or when I say, oh, your business is for products or services that are for those that are 20 or younger. Oh, yeah, Mike. Why are there a bunch of 80-year-olds sitting around a board? And when I, God forbid, hatched the idea that you need a teenager or a 20-year-old to join the board, they thought I was out of my mind. It makes logical sense. But what you're doing is bucking up against, which is part of my job, right? Tell you the things that you don't want to hear regarding your weakness, help you to find a solution so that you become more trustworthy, and help you grow your enterprise on a monthly or daily basis moving forward. I mean, crazy like ideas like, yeah, we're in every emerging market in the world, including war-torn countries. And I go, okay, so how many offices or how many people you have in Africa? And they go, none. And I go, every? I go, how big is Africa, by the way? Are you aware that Africa, even the maps that are drawn and the globes that have Africa on it aren't accurately depicted in how large Africa is? I mean, they look at me like I have four heads when I say that, right? Too risky. You're in war-torn countries. What are you talking about? What you're really saying is we're afraid. We don't know anything about that. And we've never thought of that before. I'm more than happy with you starting with that position because then I can get you more accustomed, including saying, let's get on a plane and go there. Meet some people who can help your business grow, resources that you need in a resource rich continent. We're not talking about a country, you're talking about a huge continent. If you know anything about history, this continent has had its resources stolen for hundreds of years, right? Wars fought over the richness of the resources, but you're not there. And you call yourself a leader. I mean, I challenge them. That's part of my job, especially as a board who runs a corporation. Not the CEO, not the C-suite, the board, right? They hire those people, right? But you're not going to have that with being afraid to say things like, "Oh, Mike, it's ageism to talk about people being old. You know, you can't do that." Don't tell me I can't do it. The research says if you're 80 years old, you probably don't understand these very important tools, cybersecurity, for example. How many 80-year-olds understand cybersecurity? I'm talking about deeply, like an expert. Like you sit on a board and you know that if someone can hack into the back computer system of a corporation with the various softwares that are holding valuable information, that the entire enterprise could be put out of business by one leak. It's happened to corporations. We have examples of them. Rite Aid is one of them,
Oh, is
right?
that what happened with Rite Aid?
Yeah.
We have to go to commercial break, but I definitely want to know what happened. I liked Rite Aid. We'll be right back with Mike Paul, the reputation doctor. Thank you.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. Yeah, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, and we are here with Mike Paul, the reputation doctor, the master of disaster, and the fix-it man. So, okay, we just left, and I did not know what was going on with Rite Aid. Please share the story.
Well, a quick synopsis is they underestimated the impact that a major cybersecurity breach could have on an enterprise. There is a category in the law now, and we do a lot of litigation communications working in partnership with law firms when there are major lawsuits. And I've spoken on panels about this and in even podcasts about this, which is there's a new term recent years called catastrophic verdict. A catastrophic verdict is a verdict that starts in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. So an example of a catastrophic verdict is when you have a security breach that impacts every person's social security number, mobile number, bank account information, the types of things that change people's lives instantly if they get leaked. But you're not talking about one or two people. You're talking about millions that are in your database. And they all sue, you're done. Especially when it's factually correct that due to your weakness in not understanding your software in the cybersecurity breach and a fiduciary responsibility you had as a board in a governance perspective to invest to make sure that doesn't happen, bye-bye. That's why when you hear the term cybersecurity today, you're supposed to know that. You're supposed to go, whoa, that's a serious issue in today's world, in 2025, going into 2026. But you have people sitting on a book. I mean, I'm writing my first book. I'll give you an example of a story that's in there. The guy gave me permission, because I saved his butt, to put the story in, but keep his name out. 80-year-old guy sitting on a major Fortune 10 company board. We know how big a Fortune 10 company is, right? And I did a desktop, which is going through various crisis scenarios and trying to help the board prepare for any worst case scenario situation that might happen within the corporation. And they had just had a update to their director and officers' D&O insurance policies, where they had to have much better understanding of cybersecurity. So they gave him a survey as a board member. Oh, do you personally have cybersecurity experience? This 80-year-old. So I'm packing up and leaving, and he's filling this out, right? We know each other, and I'm watching him, and he says, yes. Second question. Do you have expert understanding? In his mind, yeah, I went to that plenary session. I'm an expert now. Yes. I go, Tom, what are you doing? He goes, what? I said, you're an expert? Really? I said, what's your definition of an expert? He goes, should I change that? And he's about to hand it in. He goes, should I change it? I said, you need to be accurate. You need to put your ego aside, because you're about to put the entire enterprise at risk. And if they relied on you, for example, as an expert, and then something happens, that everyone's insurance policy, including your own, the insurance company will say they lied to us, it's fraudulent, then you can get sued individually because the policy doesn't cover you anymore. You want to talk about remember that term, catastrophic verdict? I know this guy doesn't have $1 billion, right, to pay off. I mean, just
Oh my God.
And
And how are you on board with him? Is that why you were there? Or how did you happen to be there at the right time?
I was an advisor to the board. I do a lot of work directly with boards as well as CEOs. Um, Ironically, when I was in San Francisco when we met, I was there for a certificate program at Berkeley to be registered as an independent corporate director myself. Because I'd been an advisor for so many years, I had CEOs who said, you should go to this program. You need to be on the board yourself, not just an advisor. And we need more people like you who have your type of experience. But traditionally, you would be a former CEO, you'd be a CFO, you'd be, and for many years, attorneys were not able to break the glass ceiling to join boards. Now they see the value of attorneys, and now they see the value of someone like me with my background, because the entire job of a board, the mission of a board, is to reduce risk. And if crisis PR at the highest level, especially with a strong corporate background, doing it for more than 3 decades, doesn't breach the egos that are keeping folks like me off of boards, well, the fear factor now of them not having the right person sitting next to them that has the expertise, not just the consultant that comes in every now and then, but in every single board meeting going as a peer, guys, this is a major problem. Let me explain.
Your phone
Uh,
should be ringing off the hook after that. You just saved him.
that's why he said, you want to use it in your book and it can help somebody else? Thank you. Right?
My God, that's huge. So, what are just a few other things that would be that people on board should know? The cybersecurity. What are some like just two other things that would be important as an advisor, especially in your position to
So
share
I'll
with them?
jump around a bit. So I gave you a couple of corporate examples. Let me give you a sports example. You asked about Mr. Fix-It and how I got that nickname. So I had a friend a few years ago who said, hey, I got some Yankee tickets. Would you like some Yankee tickets? And depending on where they're located, I might say yes, especially if I want to take a family member or someone to a game. But these particular tickets that someone was offering me were not so good. And he thought that I would just be so happy. Doesn't really know me, didn't research me well enough to know my background. Um, so that one day when he was basically, let's just say, having horrible assumptions about me and my ability to get tickets, I puffed up my chest a little bit that day and told him the truth, which is, I've worked for the Yankees. He's like, what? I said, I can't tell you who. I said, I've worked for the Yankees. I said, many times when I go to the game, I sit over there. And he goes, well, that's the owner's box. I said, uh-huh. But he couldn't fathom that could possibly be true, right? And I saw him at a game once, and he saw me talking to the president of the Yankees. Um, and he said, I guess you were telling me the truth. I said, something like that. It's just, some people are just ridiculous. But when it comes to the type of work, so there have been many players who've had issues of performance enhancing drugs and steroids, including members of the Yankees. I have helped them over the years. Um, it's another example of who do you choose to be your client. I could have worked with the Yankees themselves. I decided to work with their players and others in the league, as well as other sports. And what they finally gotten to know over the years, the commissioner, from the commissioner's office to the players unions to every facet of the game, is when I do my job right, everyone should be happy, because that athlete is healthier, better, more trustworthy, and is more valuable to even their agent, who starts with, I don't want this guy in the meeting. Who's this guy? He's coming in here. Dude, you get paid 15 to 20% of whatever he makes? Yeah. Maybe you need to figure out what I do, because I'm helping you make money and you're not paying for it. And then when they figure that out, they're like, oh, Mike in town, let's take him to dinner, right? I mean, it's just when you lead with ego, you have clouded judgment. When you have clouded judgment, you don't make strong and safe and trustworthy decisions. I've got these bricks over my shoulder. You're probably wondering what they are. These are actually a prop that was made for me by CBS News when I was talking about my 6 reputation doctor bricks in an interview years ago. But the bottom line is these bricks, I can get them in front of my face here for a second. So honesty, transparency, humility, accountability, and consistency. These bricks are so important. And when I'm dealing not just with the client themselves, but many times with the people who represent them, a Hollywood studio, um, uh, a agent, a campaign advisor to an elected official, you know, their emptiness, their lack of strong self-esteem, sometimes it's just kicking people out when they don't realize that you're actually helping them. And you're not supposed to know my job, right?
So are
That's
you coaching them and counseling them? Is that kind of part of your job? As you mentioned something about putting them in a program. So are you just trying to, the goal is with some of these people, let's say the athletes, to make them a better person, to help them understand what their role is and their position is and how much clout they have in among fans as well as, a lot of people.
so it's a form of consulting. It includes all the above. When I talk about a program or a campaign, it's me saying it's not like you have a half hour conversation and they're fixed, right? Many of these programs go on for years, a minimum of months, many months, which is the first thing you have to get a client to understand, right? Human nature goes, I want this to go away right away. Okay, it's not. So change your assumption immediately. We got a lot of work to do. It would be the equivalent of calling an attorney with a case that that's going to go on for the next year and a half, for example, right? These high profile cases that are around forever, right? With a lot of moving parts. Hey, what's the one thing you're going to do that's going to solve this for me? That's not how it works. So why would you ask me a similar question than that? I mean, especially when I'm working alongside a legal team that's we're on these crisis calls and they're answering things from a legal perspective and I'm answering things from a court of public opinion perspective. Um, we've got an election cycle going on right now. I'm working with a couple of people who are thinking about running for office. And even they sometimes want a quick answer to things. Things are complex. Life is complex. It's not simplistic. That thinking, ironically, is one of the factors that got you in crisis in the first place, right? One of the biggest tools that I use is emotional intelligence. Another huge tool that I use is the ability to think very, very deeply from not only one other's perspective, but dozens at the same time. With a board in my brain that's going, okay, what's the product that's in crisis? Oh, it affects families. Families, as in any age? Okay. How many people is that? How many millions of people do I have to be concerned about? What different countries in the world are utilizing it? What are the difference of culture in these various countries? How does it impact whether they buy your product? I mean, I've got to peel. When everyone else is like, "Whoa, that's too much." Okay, I have to do that, right? And then
Right.
when they see it thoroughly, they go, "Wow, that is an excellent strategy." Now, of course, you took the patience to peel. Again, I utilize the sports analogy. The other coach is like, we're going to do these 3 things. Okay, we've studied their tape. We know our own weaknesses and strengths. We know their weaknesses and strengths. We took 4 weeks before this game to study everything. We practiced the things on their weak side that are going to get us in the goal. We're about to kick their butt. And when people go, wow, how'd you guys do that? We worked harder. We researched harder. We built the foundation better. This isn't rocket science, right? But you better continue to have an attitude of consistently and constantly learning, the same way that you should have an attitude of consistently and solidly and with focus understand that your reputation deserves managing. Your
Absolutely.
brand is part of your reputation.
Absolutely. So what's it like when you first get the call? I know it takes a while to get through the whole process, but what's it like when you first get the call and that crisis is unfolding?
Um, your job is, when everyone else is panicking, to stay calm. Your job is also to help them to stay calm. You'll hear me, if you're in the war room with me, say things that people think is crazy, like, "How'd you guys sleep last night?" Well, why are you talking about that? Because when you get sleep, 8 hours of it, even in the midst of crisis, you're going to focus better. You're going to have the attention span I need, and we're going to have long hours. You might have 12, 14-hour days, but the rest, you need to be sleeping. You need to drink water, a lot of it, right? I don't want to hear
Right.
about drugs. I don't want to hear about too much alcohol. Not when you're in the midst of crisis. My job is to help you win. I have evidence that those things will work against us if you're doing it. So you're
Absolutely.
sleeping 3 hours a night and you're boozing up and you're drugging up and then you think, including celebrities, by the way, and athletes, right? That you get a pass because you've got a bunch of money. I'm
Mhm.
still going to tell you the same message, which is you're hurting yourself. I'm not your daddy or your mommy. I can't make you not do it, but I can give you advice that this is going to be a major issue in whether we win or not. A major issue whether I can turn you around. Other huge factors, how you're getting along with your wife or your partner when you're going through this, right? You don't tell me that she's thinking about divorcing you. How the heck can I help you? You can't focus on anything I'm talking about if you're worried about that. Or you got two kids in college and they said, F you, Dad. I got the same last name. You know what crap I'm going through? Hang up on you. All that stress is limiting you, but I don't know that that's going on. I have to know those things because I'll work on those when others go. There are firms that go, we don't do personal stuff. Okay, we're going to kick your butt because when we do, we're going to win.
Those are all extremely good points. It's just, that is so true. That's very important. What mistakes do people or companies often make that hurt the reputation long before a crisis?
Being on the slippery slope with decision making when you know you started there and it keeps growing because your ego and your subconscious and your mind is saying, oh, I got away with that, I can do it again. Oh, let's do a little bit more, right? Let's use stealing as an example, right? You start with just being a kid and you steal candy. Now you went to school, you graduate, you're in a corporation, you get a decent job, you're like, wow, they're giving me all this responsibility and I'm in charge of that budget and nobody knows. I'm going to take a little bit and see if it works. Wow, that was like the candy. I'm going to take a little bit more. I'll give you a small example. It wasn't small for them, but small compared to some of the other stuff I work on. I had a church, big church, as a client, and they go, our CFO has been stealing money for 25 years. We just found out. Millions. This guy made enough money from the steal to buy an apartment on Central Park South.
Oh my God.
Older guy at this point, right? And guess what? You know how they found out? His own conscience turned him in. He couldn't live with himself anymore. So I said, okay, you guys know what you just told me? Your system is so faulty that the only way he got caught is he turned himself in.
Oh my gosh.
Let me ask a very basic question. Is he able to write a check with signature? Oh yeah. I go, and you guys have a board?
Oh wow.
Red flag, right? That was one of my first questions. They go, yeah. I go, no wonder. I mean, you guys set the trap, you set the environment for him. He definitely did wrong. But what I was saying to the board in the very first meeting is, you guys are just as culpable. And by the way, anyone who's sitting in your congregation who understands that, you guys are all at risk. How could you let somebody be the only person in charge of money moving in and out? No limits on the amount of having two people or a boat or a board or any action in between? I mean, he's human. At some point in his life, he needed money, and he goes, I know how to do it.
Wow. That's insane. That's
So
crazy.
that's how some of those stories happen.
Wow. So how important is mindset when facing public scrutiny?
It's extremely important. And one of the big tools that you can utilize in helping to change that mindset is understanding that your own assumptions for your life are off kilter, right? So some of the things we were just talking about is having healthy boundaries, right? You say that to people and they don't, especially people that struggle with boundaries, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to think about that. They know that they struggle with them. They hope you don't see them. When they do, they get angry at you. But ultimately, that's a huge part of this business. Having the ability to know where the healthy boundaries are based on experience, based on research, based on other cases. Um, the ability to say tough things to very powerful people. Many times I frame it by saying, hey, we're getting to know each other. You know, I care about you, but I'm also going to tell you some tough stuff in the next sentence. Are you prepared for me to tell you? Well, go ahead. Usually they're not prepared, right? But you gave them the opportunity to have a little bit more preparation. That meaning you have a choice to change your assumption that you currently have because I'm going to tell you something that's going to challenge that assumption. That's basically what I said with that question. And then you tell them, I mean, I've even been called the N word by a client, you know? And guess what? Here's the irony. I had prepared my heart, especially when dealing with a very powerful white man, that that could happen. So when it happens and the other people in the room go, oh my God, he said that. Guess what? I'm like, okay, it happened. I already prepared myself that it could, at least worst case scenario. So I'm not going to necessarily react that same way that somebody else is. Oh my gosh, right? Because I just had a test and a setup for a client to tell them the blunt, raw truth about what they've been doing based on research that they know and gave me permission to do and my team. And we found a ton of stuff. Some of what you told us, there might be a majority you didn't tell us at all. And there's such fear in you, you project then that energy and that fear on me by saying, oh yeah, well, you're this. Okay. It's not relevant to the conversation. You expected me to jump back and either be fearful or get pissed at you. I'm not. I will say I'm disappointed that you said that, right? But then your own conscience, after you do it, when you didn't get the result that you thought I was going to have, is going to start working. So that particular individual, I ended up having dinner with him and his wife only a couple of days later. And she's like, he did this and you're here? I don't understand. And I said, I prepared myself that he could potentially react in a worst case scenario fashion. And that's among the list of worst case scenarios things you could say to me. But because he knew that even as he tested me by saying that I had a choice of running away or saying, I quit, I'm still here. Which means he had an opportunity to go, wow, I can really trust this guy because he cares about me. That's why we're here at dinner.
That's
And that's
awesome.
why,
So we have to wrap it up, but I do want to ask my last question is, and it
yes,
could be quick because we're at the end. What would you, you've clearly had a lot of success in your life, and I'm always talking to my 25-year-old self, and I know younger people are out there, they're looking to grow and become successful. what would you tell your 25-year-old self now looking back?
Continue to work on patience because you're going to need it. There are going to be times, even though the words come out of your mouth, that you're still a human being, and there will be times that you could be more patient and you're not. Not only at 25, not only at 35 or 45 or 55, but at my age now. And I would have started working on patience in my teens to be able to utilize that tool in an even greater fashion today, to help myself, to help my family, to help more people. And I constantly seek to work on it. It's an issue that I know I have. At times, I do not have patience. Sometimes the stress gets to me too. It's why I say things like eat well, get good sleep, don't do any drugs, be surrounded by family, lean on your faith if you have it, in God, or something bigger than yourself at least, and know how to walk it off when you need to walk it off. Know how to say sometimes even the family, I need an extra hour, I need a few more minutes to just download your day. When you walk in the door, your family wants you to be present. That's very difficult to do when you are thinking of 100 different crises a day, and have the pressure of wanting to fix them. And you don't want to bring that energy back into your home, which is another thing that's difficult, to constantly think you need to fix your family. That's not your job.
Right. This is wonderful. Patience. I definitely agree with that. I'm constantly coaching my real estate agents and have patience and just don't give up. And I think that's a really powerful one. So, Mike, how do people get a hold of you?
Reputation Doctor, fully spelled out.com. Thank you so much. I also have a new foundation. We have a GoFundMe campaign currently. The name of the foundation and the charity is Reputation Doctor Foundation. And if you go to GoFundMe, you can potentially give us a donation. We're doing emergency communications and crisis communication for people greatest in need in America.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show. This was wonderful. Have a
Thank you, buddy.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.